I don't often bake cakes, but there's one type I'm particularly fond of, the Viennese cheesecake. It's a variety made entirely from quark-based batter with no base. It's so delicious I don't even mind the relative difficulty of the recipe, which, along with additional information, can be found on the blog. To make the batter, I will obviously need quark. Homemade in my case, though store-bought will work fine too. The remaining ingredients are eggs, caster sugar, flour, butter, and vanilla extract. All ingredients must be at ambient temperature. The amount of butter depends on the fat content of quark. The goal is to bump it to exactly 25%. This is the sweet spot for cheesecakes, and it results in a perfect texture. The blog post contains more information on how to calculate the ingredient amounts precisely. The butter is soft and I can slightly cream it using a whisk. This is hard work and, to be fair, I think it's not crucial in this recipe. I separate the whites from the yolks. I use 2 bowls, one for the yolks and one for the whites. The third bowl is useful in case one of the eggs has gone off. A potential bad egg will not mix with the good ones this way. This approach also helps in case a yolk breaks. Bits of yolk must not mix with the whites, they contain fat, which makes beating the egg whites impossible. I set the whites aside and add caster sugar to the yolks. I whisk the mixture until everything comes together. I should beat the whites much later, but for some reason I started early. I realised this after a while and leave the whites half beaten. I'll come back to them in a while. The actual next step is combining quark with the butter. However, freshly made quark is too grainy. A cheesecake requires a very smooth cheese, so it needs to be ground. A typical way of doing this would be to use a meat grinder or possibly a blender. I prefer a potato press. The result is the same and there's less cleaning afterwards. Once the quark is ground, I combine it with butter using a whisk. Yolks with sugar come next. I add them little by little, whisking the mixture constantly. The batter is smooth and homogeneous. I still need to whisk in the vanilla extract and the flour. Everything's in place except the whites. It's time to finish beating them. I know I'm done when I see firm peaks forming when I lift the whisk. The foam should stay in the bowl even when turned upside down. Now I combine the whites with the batter. I don't use a whisk, but instead I fold the foam in with a spatula. This step requires a gentle approach in order not to knock the air out of the whites. The air bubbles act as the only leavening agent here, and I don't want the cheesecake to turn into a cheese pancake. I have a round springform pan prepared. I've lined it with parchment paper. I pour the batter in and gently even the surface out. Now comes a neat trick. I'm going to bake the cheesecake in a water bath. For that I will need some aluminium foil and a larger vessel. A large cake tin in my case, but a deep roasting pan would do fine too. I wrap a double layer of aluminium foil around the springform pan. This must be watertight, so there must be no holes in the foil. I then place the springform pan in the larger vessel, which I then fill with boiling water. The water level should reach approximately half the height of the inner pan. This contraption makes sure the batter never gets burned. Only the top of the cheesecake will be directly exposed to the oven's high temperature. The water vapor will also minimize the risk of the cheesecake surface cracking. Oops, the outer pan is already too hot to handle. I need some kitchen gloves. The cheesecake is ready when the top starts to caramelize. It's risen nicely, though it always deflates a bit afterwards. I remove the springform pan from the water and also remove the aluminium foil. The pan goes back into the turned off oven. I don't shut the oven door completely. The cheesecake will slowly cool down while still cooking in the center over the next 30 minutes. Half an hour later, It's safe to remove the cheesecake from the oven and let it cool down to ambient temperature. When it's cooled down, I place it in the fridge. It needs an overnight chill to develop the optimal taste. On the next day, I can take the cheesecake out of the fridge. I remove it from its springform pan and cut 2 portions. I like to serve them with a dusting of confectioner's sugar and a bit of chocolate ganache. White, dark, or even both. Oh, this is so good. It's sweet, but not overly so. The quark comes through and the texture is just perfect. The cheesecake is smooth and moist. Delicious.